Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation for our company, Lyft. This is Team 6, which is comprised of myself, Alex McCune, Vaslina, Haritonova, and Ariel, Morton. Like I just said, we're going to do our in-depth company analysis on Lyft. First thing we're going to do is go through a little background, get you familiarized with what we're doing. We're going to go into an industry analysis so you guys know where we're competing, where we're doing business. Evaluate a SWOT analysis, so we'll show you the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. And then go into their research and development activities, followed by strategic activities, performance analysis, finally concluding with future recommendations of how they can improve, how they can take strengths, leverage them to their competition, and improve market share. To start off, we have to understand what Lyft is doing. They have a very noticeable mission statement. They want to reconnect people and communities through better transportation. Now, many of you understand what Uber is, and Uber is almost a verb at this point. Or a noun. Let's just get an Uber. Let's have an Uber. Or let's Uber somewhere. Lyft is the other name in that category. It's mostly a duopoly. We have Lyft and Uber. There are other competing brands which we will talk about. But really, those are the two companies that we're going to stress the most today. Their slogan is "Your friend with a car." And it's not just a cute marketing slogan. It's a promise that customers will in turn have tangible impact on the internal culture. Something that Lyft is really good at, and the strength that they have, which we'll talk about in the SWOT, is that they have a really clear understanding of how to interact with people, how to be friendly, how to be sincere. And it is a huge advantage to them. Their values is care for community, care for environment, safety, happy drivers, happy riders. And that's what it's all about. It's customer-oriented satisfaction. We need to build a relationship with customers so that our referrals go to someone else, and we build that branch, and more people want to drive for us, and more people want to ride with Lyft. As a company introduction, they were headquartered in San Francisco, California. It was created in 2012, and it showed steady growth. It's really picked up in the growth in the last 2 years, but since 2012, it's always been growing. As you can see down here, we have the completed rides graph. So it's years on our x-axis, Y is our completed rides, and in 2012, 0.1 million rides that year, all the way up to 162.6 million rides 4 years later. Huge increase. Their revenues last year in 2016 were $700 million. To get an understanding of their product portfolio, a lot of them are service-based. Lyft is what we're going to be talking about most. Lyft is their typical standard package where you have the app on your phone, you hit a button, a ride comes to you, they call you, you get in, and then you get to your destination. Lyft Line is a product designed for lower costs for passengers having multiple people ride together when they share a common route. There's also Express Drive, Lyft for Work, Lyft Plus, which is extended vehicles, things that can take occupancy of 6 or more. And there are also scheduled rides, so things that are already predetermined. You're not waiting for something, you are going somewhere more like a bus route, on time to a destination. Product diversification, if we want to talk about their acquisitions, they've acquired with Cherry, Rover, Hitch, Leo, Finite Paths, YesGraph, and Data Source. Their partnership with Waymo, Jaguar Land Rover, General Motors, Nutonomy, Brookdale Senior Living, Taco Bell, and Amtrak. We want to look at their industry analysis. We have to understand who they're competing with, and that's Uber. So everything that we compare is going to be up against Uber. On the right here, we have a graph showing you, a pie chart, showing you market shares and then shares of spending over 2015 all the way to 2017 on both sides. So as you can see here, Uber takes up 92.32% of the spending in that industry, with Lyft being 7.68 in 2015. That number for Uber is diminishing while Lyft is increasing. This is something that we need to be familiar with because we're going to talk a lot about it during this presentation. Uber is declining while Lyft is starting to rise. That's a pun. Down here we have a market share. Again, Uber was sitting about 90% of that market share, very dominant. But as of late, in the last year, Lyft has almost surpassed to 25% and Uber down to 75%. So we're seeing that trend. The industry that they are in is an app-based ride sharing, and many of us are familiar with it. You have the app on your phone, you have a destination you need to go to, you call in, you press a button and request a vehicle to transport you. Let's talk about the 5 forces. The first force is rivalry among competitors. It's very strong in this industry. The main competitor is Uber. There are other ones, as we can see at the bottom, Juno, Safir, Via, Get, but they aren't market leaders. We're trying to overcome a giant as Lyft. Lyft is trying to overcome Uber. Uber has more than 50% of the market share. As we said, they had 90, but it is dropping. So there is promise for Lyft. And we're going to go over why Lyft is boosting and Uber is reducing. Threat of potential entry. There is space for product proliferation. There can be tailored services. An entrant can come in and say, I only want to attend to college students, getting them from here, their university back to home, or from university to the grocery store where they all want to be, taking them to bars or whatever that service is. They can specialize, which is something that Lyft needs to do a little better, is specialize. It's hard to gain any scale-based advantages due to this business model type, however. Incumbents are somewhat protected by non-scale-based advantages. There are patents involved, especially as these are tech-based companies using apps, using computer softwares, especially when we get into self-driving vehicles. And then Lyft already has a large brand image, as well as Uber. So that makes potential entry a little more difficult to know that there are 2 very large competitors in this environment. There are 2 major competitors, and it makes entrance very difficult. Bargaining power of suppliers is something that we really need to understand when we're talking about a company analysis for Lyft. Because Lyft doesn't have employees that drive their car, they have self-contracted workers. People decide that they want to, on their free time, make a little bit of extra money. They contract themselves as a Lyft driver. They can plan their own hours, plan their own routes, and then all of that gets reported back to Lyft. So there's a really strong bargaining power in the supplier, which is the driver. If they don't want to drive, Lyft doesn't make any money. If they want to drive this much, that's what Lyft will get. So Lyft is at a disadvantage because they are at the mercy of their supplier or their drivers. There is also bargaining power of the buyers, of the customers. There are a lot of customers out there. As we can see, there are billions of ride sharing every single year. However, there are a lot of substitutes. A lot of people have their own vehicle. I have my own vehicle. There are bus routes, there are subway routes, there's walking, biking. There are a lot of substitutes for travel other than Lyft sharing or ride sharing with Uber or Lyft. So they have a bargaining power there. They have an advantage where they don't have to use the app. So it's about encouraging them and showing them the experience gained through Lyft that really makes a difference. There's also threats of substitutes that we need to talk about. They are not necessarily protected from superior quality. New rivals will continuously and constantly be entering in and trying to get a foot in this industry because it's profitable, because it's very, very growing and healthy. And with only 2 competitors, people feel like there's a piece of that pie for them. So they're going to constantly be coming up with new innovations, new ways of servicing, new ways of transporting to make sure that there are substitutes for Lyft. Let's go over the SWOT analysis here. We're going to start with the strengths, followed by weaknesses, then opportunities, and threats. With our strengths, one of the biggest things that we have is our brand equity. The brand image, the reputation that they've built to being friendly, kind, sincere, bringing extreme value to the customer. having that be a positive experience from traveling point A to point B. Affordable prices is something that Lyft has on Uber. So they all start at the same basic rate, $2 a mile for your transportation fees. But do you ever notice that sometimes when you travel with Lyft or Uber, that fee doesn't quite add up? And that's because of a surge charge. During rush hour traffic, during big events, you're going to have different multiplication factors that go into that price. Now, Uber has all the way up to a 700% surge charge, whereas Lyft only has a 200% surge charge. So they are more efficient as far as the buyer or the customer for travel. They also have a unique marketing approach. This, a lot of times, this third one here, plays into effect of their very positive brand image, but they're friendly and simple and relaxed. It creates more than just a ride, it's a community. It's a group of people that associate with each other. It's an experience that they can have and tell their friends about, and that's how a lot of that word of mouth travel goes for Lyft. It is something that is larger than just traveling. There's a lot of donation. They'll round up transactions to the nearest dollar and then donate that money to some type of charity or service or any type of project that needs help or funding. And that's something that really sits well with customers. Looking at the weaknesses, there are legal issues. Reliability issues exist even after stricter regulations and stricter background checks. When you have all these self-contractors, they just join into your team. You're not going through that whole interview process to really solidify that they're a proper candidate. You also have entrance restrictions when you go from a different market, say you're in Philadelphia to Pittsburgh or to Chicago. You have to abide by those regulations, those laws that come into impact there. Then flexibility of driving working hours. Since they don't have schedules, they aren't creating schedules, the drivers are creating their own schedules. This is another power to the supplier, a power to the driver, is that you have no control over that. Your goal is to promote and excite those drivers to be doing as much work as possible by giving them enough incentives and creating a good experience for them. But the weakness comes if they don't drive, Lyft doesn't get any money. And that's difficult because that is unpredictable. Let's talk about the opportunities. There's opportunity for geographic expansion. Right now, Lyft only operates in the United States. Uber operates in over 70 countries, their main competitor, but Lyft only in the United States, several hundred cities. So there's opportunity for them to expand into different markets, maybe more of the trusted markets. They can go to Canada and just test out the waters. Now, competitors of theirs have done this, and there are things to work off of. So they can take the difficulties that Uber had or the struggles that they had and use that to their benefit because they saw what Uber didn't see. They get to learn from experience and play it a little smarter, play it a little easier, and make those foreign entries much smoother. They also have a huge opportunity that Uber has screwed up in 2017. There's been a lot of scandals, there's been a lot of issues. Their CEO was forcibly resigned. They've had sexual harassment, sexual hostility, poor working environments. They've had a major lawsuit filed against them for stealing of intellectual property. And that is a big deal. And it's really hurt the brand image of Uber. And we talked about how important brand image is and how great Lyft's is. Having any deduction in your brand equity as Uber, that's a scary thing. As Lyft is increasing all of their market shares, and now you found yourself in a point where the customers aren't on your side and the investors aren't on your side. That becomes a scary time and a huge opportunity for Lyft to leapfrog or at least get to parity with Uber. Another opportunity is there are more innovations among partners. Lyft has teamed up with Waymo as a Google brand to really develop into self-driving vehicles. This is a major opportunity and where we think personally as a team and where many experts think this industry is heading towards self-driving vehicles. The threats that they experience. The strategy of new market entrants to attract drivers aggressively by providing low commission rates, giving them company stock, giving them things that employees of a large company would receive, those kind of benefits, whereas Lyft is just offering, self-contract work and decent pay on the side. So there's a possibility of companies introducing a more attractive offer to the drivers, or giving cheaper prices and undercutting everyone. So those are big threats in this industry. Also, changing in regulations and restrictions and the addition of new regulations and restrictions. They're always being created. There are environmental concerns, safety concerns, taxi companies have restrictions, and cities themselves have differing restrictions throughout the country. And that might result in a higher cost for companies and endlessly higher cost for Lyft. Now that we have talked efficiently about the SWOT analysis, I want to go into talking about the R&D activities and what Lyft is doing. One thing I want to talk about is the National Association of the Deaf. Lyft has partnered with them to make not only the riding experience, but the driving experience for people with hearing loss disabilities in their industry. Lyft is partnering with them to develop software, develop signals, lights, text, alerting systems in the vehicle that allow people who have hearing loss to both drive and ride comfortably. What this shows to us, and what it shows to many of their customers, is this another reason their brand equity is so high and so favorable. They're working with disabilities. They're trying to promote the largest workforce of drivers they can by reaching out to everyone. And that's not just a targeted thing, they're reaching out to those with disabilities, which is very ethical and is something that customers are really responsive to. The Open Platform Initiative is something that Lyft had announced, where they're going to develop hardware and software to really tackle self-driving vehicles. Something that is becoming very paramount in this industry is the first one to really efficiently use self-driving vehicles might take over. And this is an opportunity for Lyft to leapfrog over Uber if they can get there first. What they're doing is they are developing self-driving technology. There's a research facility in Palo Alto, California. They have partnered with Waymo, which belongs to Google, Nutonomy, as well as General Motors. And they're all going to work beside each other to make the best possible self-driving vehicle in the shortest amount of time. This is going to change the industry, and it'll be exciting to see who gets there first. This not only promotes self-driving car for the riders, but it's also a strategy to develop this autonomous vehicle alongside manufacturers, so software along with hardware, keeping everyone in the loop, everyone integrated in the most amount of minds, people, brain power going into this problem. What they want to do is they want to create this, with these collaborating partners, the most efficient and fastest and safest way possible. It's almost like they're creating a new product. This software not only will be used into their own assets in their vehicles, but they'll be able to sell this product. It'll almost be like an operating system for an Android phone or an Apple phone. They'll be able to use this software, present it to different auto manufacturers or different companies that are looking for it, and they'll be able to use that software because it'll be set up for purchase. So it shows the tech company going from just ride sharing might change here in the next several years. They're also, to talk a little more about their partnership with Nutonomy, there's also another facility in Boston where they're going to be doing more tests on self-driving vehicles. The partnership will focus on understanding and optimizing the end-to-end experience. So not just bringing self-driving cars to the industry, but how to make that efficient for the customer, how to maintain that favorable relationship, the positive experience with a responsive, autonomous vehicle. To talk about the growth that Lyft has experienced, we have to compare it up against Uber as well. As we saw before, the market share for Uber was dropping while Lyft's was increasing. As of the end of July of 2017, Lyft's quarterly gross bookings exceeded $1 billion. They've grown 25% in the second quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of the year. Lyft's drivers gave the same number of rides in just the first half of this year than they did all of last year. So growth is continuing. We said the rides per year graph early on in the presentation ended at 162 million in 2016, and now in just the first half of this year they've already achieved 162 million. So the growth is very much there. Expansion is another thing that they are working on. We noticed that that was an opportunity for them to get more globally involved or even reach out to more cities in the United States. This year alone, they have offered rides in 160 new markets. Their goal was 100. So that's 160 new cities that people will be self-contracting themselves to be a driver in the United States. They have also hired a chief strategy officer and a new president of marketing. This is going to be a very important duo as they attack strategic development. Now they have people on payroll focused on how to beat their competitors and how to grow with these opportunities that are presented and how to find them. Looking a little farther into their into the revenue, it shows that they had lost 600 million of their $700 million in revenue. What this shows is that the profit in this industry is still developing. It's still a young industry as they'd only entered in 2012. They are still working towards being very profitable. Now, the year before, they lost more than double their revenue. So to only lose 100 million less than their revenue this time, this year, is a significant improvement. Their sales are growing 3 times faster than their losses are growing. With added revenue to the markets, there will be new spending to recruit its supply of drivers and attract new riders. That's how you build up your customer base, and like we said before, there's a power to the suppliers, or the power to the drivers, and there has to be incentives or an attractiveness to be a self-contracted Lyft driver. In 2016, Lyft was able to grow without subsidies, which is a very healthy sign for Lyft. They do not plan to add any fixed costs to that equation, but they may have to continue to do a little bit of subsidizing to enter new markets if they really want to compete with Uber on a global scale. Because Lyft's revenues are growing so much, they're going to be able to spend more money into the referral programs. So this slide has to deal with all the referral programs, and what they're doing is they're trying to increase marketing via the in-app referrals and marketing by word of mouth. This is both beneficial to the driver and the rider, because Lyft wants to recruit both of those parties. What they're doing is the in-app exchanges and communication will be able to let you know if you lost an item, or if the app is able to share your ETA with other people and share your positioning with other people. It'll also provide talking points among users, which turns into an increased engagement. Lyft has made the web to mobile experience extremely easy, and this has to go along with the roots of the app as well as their referral programs. This is a nice image here to show you how well it transfers from a mobile device to a PC. Everyone's on their phones, and if you're not utilizing marketing that is targeted towards the phones, then you're definitely behind the curve. And I believe, and we believe, that Lyft is conveying this very, very well, and the convenience is another reason why people are choosing Lyft. On this slide, we're going to be talking about incentive strategy that Lyft has deployed to offer bonuses to the drivers who are offering referrals and getting more people on board to be a driver. On this graph, we have time as our x-axis from December to May, and then bonuses in US dollars on the y-axis. Each line represents a region or a market or a city. As you can see, in those short months, each line is trending upwards and noticeably trending upwards. So the bonus incentive program is certainly going well and is offering more cash in the pocket of their drivers. Let's talk about the recommendations for future strategy. We need to help and set forward a plan for Lyft to take over and increase their market share. Lyft is that one piece of the duopoly here with Uber. Unfortunately, they have lower market share, they are offering less rides, they have less investment backing, and they make less money. There's less profit and less revenue for them. So how can they be at parity with Uber, or how can they leapfrog them and take over? Like with most company analyses and strategic developments, we have to look at the core competencies that Lyft has and leverage them to the opportunities in the market. Uber is currently under heavy scrutiny. There are major lawsuits in motion with Waymo, a partner of Lyft, for accusing them of stealing intellectual property, IT, and software for autonomous vehicles. Uber's work environment and culture is also very sexually hostile and unfavorable, and it's been very heavily criticized. In fact, their CEO, Travis Kalanick, resigned from his position, forcibly, I might mention. Investors were not appreciating the direction that Uber is going, and based on their market shares, they were starting to withhold their investments, and they requested a resignation of Travis Kalanick. So this shows a period of instability for Uber, and probably the first time in this young market that Uber has shown a weakness. And this is an opportunity for Lyft to really capitalize. They're the other player in the game. They have a partnership with Waymo, and they can really accelerate what they're doing to get on top of the market. So, what we think that they should do is, in this time where Uber is struggling, they need to accelerate their investment into self-driving vehicles. Put more money into their initiative plans, work with their partners with General Motors, Waymo, Nutonomy, and really come up with an efficient end-to-end process with softwares and hardware for the vehicles to really take over this ride sharing with self-driving vehicles. They need to market that positive image that they have, their high brand equity, the friendliness, the sincerity that they bring, and really leverage that against the poor image that Uber has achieved in 2017. They need to leverage that relationship with Waymo, as well as try to establish first entry into the self-driving vehicles, because there is a lot of value to being first. You get to set the trends, you get to create the relationships, create the customers, and be the forefront and lead that industry and be the first one to take over market share. Also, they can work on expanding into less restrictive foreign markets. We don't think it's the major thing that they should be doing at this point, but they have an opportunity, since they are only in the US, to go after less restrictive environments where they feel comfortable in. They need to align their values with the markets that they are going to be going up against, and they can use Uber's mistakes and other rivals' mistakes to really learn from them and pick the right host countries to enter into a new market. We have talked about the suppliers having very high bargaining power. The suppliers are the drivers, and they get to work their own hours, they create their schedules, and Uber has no control of that. Their business is dependent on them. Not only is it dependent on them, but they're also offering up to almost 75% of the money raised in one of those on a ride transaction goes to the driver. This is good for keeping your drivers, but it's bad for retaining profits. So who does not require that high of a rate, or of a wage? The answer to that is robots don't need that. Autonomous vehicles will change the way Lyft does business, because they will not have to pay a vehicle operator. They can just program the vehicle to run routes and pick people up without having to pay for any of the labor forces. The vehicles can also operate at a much higher capacity. They can run from 7 to 7, or whatever that scheduled vehicle is in the plan. They can run that, and they don't have to wait on hours being submitted, or if a driver doesn't want to work anymore, they don't have to worry about that, because they control the capacity that they work from. Also, the software that they have produced to make this all possible and the hardware that comes along with it, those can all be used as a product now. This is something that they can offer and sell and bargain with other companies just like it was an operating system for your cell phone. There are, however, inherent risks that come with autonomous vehicles. First off, Lyft is going to sacrifice one of their key strengths, and that is their interaction, and they're going to be replacing it with automation. Customers value Lyft's friendliness and their consideration, sincerity, and the interactions that they have, and removing the human element from that might hurt their brand image. There's also a liability issue that comes with self-driving vehicles. Because this industry is so new, the restrictions aren't there yet for self-driving vehicles. If the vehicle decides to make a calculation and injures or kills another human being, what is Lyft liable for here? So there are restrictions that come from a liability purpose because it's so new that it's a little bit dangerous to take a human operator out of a vehicle. So Lyft needs to approach the self-driving vehicle without losing what is helping them gain so much success over the last 2 years, and that's their human capital. They need to transition slowly. They need to keep humans in the vehicle when they start to roll out autonomous vehicles. Let them co-pilot, let them be part of the experience, the culture, and the interaction. Find out from the customer if that is even necessary too. Keeping someone in the vehicle allows you to research and get opinions and comments from the riders if that was a value-added experience. And if it's not, then you can start to withdraw some of those people in the vehicles and just leave it automated. But until then, you need to transition slowly so that there's at least a co-pilot in the vehicle to retain that positive brand image that you have. We want to thank you very much for listening to our presentation and company analysis on Lyft. We hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.